Everyone assumes that learning to drive without GPS was just harder, more stressful, a disadvantage you had to deal with before the technology caught up. They're wrong. The absence was the training. Every piece of the experience that felt like a limitation, the clutch you had to feel through your foot, the map you had to read before you left, the wrong turns you had to find your way back from alone, was building something that the easier version removes entirely. You're 15 or 16 years old, sitting in a dual-control car in a school parking lot, an instructor beside you with a brake pedal on his side, watching you with the specific patience of someone who has seen this exact stall 1,000 times before, with 3 pedals on the floor, a gear lever between the seats, and white parking lot lines stretching out ahead of you. You push the clutch in, find first gear, and let your left foot up too fast. The car lurches and dies. You try again and again. What you don't realize, sitting there in the driver's ed car with sweaty palms and a shaking left leg, is that every stall is teaching your hands and feet something your brain will carry for the rest of your life. Not a rule or a diagram, but a physical sensation you'll never have to think about again. You were learning to read a machine through your body, and that learning went into your hands and feet the way riding a bike does. So deep it stopped feeling like something you knew and started feeling like something you just were. The exact moment the clutch catches, the way the engine sounds right before it needs to shift, the slight resistance in the gear lever when the car is about to stall. You built a feedback loop between driver and machine that automatic transmissions don't offer and never will. You'd think that was just a harder way to learn. It built something the easier version couldn't. Automatic transmissions removed that conversation between driver and machine entirely. You still had it. And your body learned it so deeply that it stopped feeling like skill and started feeling like knowing. This is why you can feel something wrong with a car before the warning light turns on. Why, when an engine sounds different, why you can parallel park in a space that looks impossible to someone who has only ever done it with a camera showing them the curb. What researchers call proprioception, you just call knowing how the car feels. But the clutch was building one kind of intelligence. The map was building something different and in some ways more lasting. Before any real trip, you planned your route, because once you left the driveway, the paper on the passenger seat was all you had. Your directions were handwritten on a piece of notebook paper or traced from a Rand McNally atlas the night before at the kitchen table, the AM radio on low, committing the sequence to memory because the roads would be moving past you at 45 miles an hour. When you missed the turn anyway, and you did, you pulled into a gas station somewhere off the highway, walked inside under the fluorescent lights, spread the road map across the hood of the car, found the last exit you recognized, and figured out where you'd gone wrong. And there was nobody to ask. You'd think that kind of uncertainty would create anxiety around getting lost. It built the opposite. Researchers studying how the brain handles navigation found something that explains why you move through unfamiliar places so differently than people who grew up with GPS. When you figure out your own way, reading street signs, tracking which direction the sun is sitting, building a picture of how the roads connect, the part of your brain responsible for spatial memory grows stronger with use. When you follow turn-by-turn directions instead, it doesn't just stop developing, it loses ground it already had. Every wrong turn you found your way back from was building that capacity. Every time you held a route in your head, instead of following a line on a screen, you were strengthening something that gets weaker every year. It isn't used. What researchers call spatial mapping, you just call knowing where you are. And today it shows up in ways you probably don't even notice. When someone's phone dies in an unfamiliar city, you don't feel panic, you feel mild inconvenience. You read street signs, find a landmark you passed 20 minutes ago, and work backward from there. While someone who grew up with GPS is genuinely functionally lost, you're already solving it. While they need step-by-step instructions before they'll move, you're already in motion, adjusting as you go. While they experience a wrong turn as a crisis, you experience it as a variable, something that happens, something you've handled before. That isn't just more experience behind the wheel. It's a different relationship with uncertainty that got built in parking lots and on highway shoulders and in driver's ed cars that stalled and stalled and stalled until they didn't. The generation that learned this way is already in their 40s and 50s, and driver's ed rarely teaches manual transmission anymore. Nobody hands a 16-year-old a paper map and tells them to plan the route the night before. The feeling of a clutch under your foot, the habit of reading a map before you left, the muscle memory of finding your way back from a wrong turn with nothing but your own reasoning, that specific combination doesn't exist in the same form. What you built is becoming genuinely rare because the conditions that produced it are gone. You were the last ones to get it. Sitting in that parking lot with a gear lever that kept stalling out, learning to feel a machine through your hands and feet, you were receiving something that can't be downloaded or patched in later. You already know how to find your way. You always did. And if you're curious where that came from, the generation that taught you to drive handed you that paper map and told you to figure it out when you got lost. Their psychology is its own story. What the baby boomers were built from is different from what you were built from. And understanding it explains a few things about both of you that nobody really talks about. You can find that video on the channel.